Okay, today is the September 10th Finance Committee. It's approximately 6:20. In attendance, we go around and introduce everybody. Mike Wolf.
Bucky Scott.
Kathy Haynes.
Angela Maidel-Long.
Lauren Small.
Okay, I know Mr. Scott, Mr. Jeff Scott will be here, but he'll be late, so. All right, Kathy, where do you want to start?
Okay, we're going to start with the Act 1. The index, the projected index that they have out so far is 2.3%. We have the calendar in front of us for Act 1 that just gives a timeline as to when things are due. For, like the December 15th is the tax cert that needs to be done. For the January 31st is the deadline to submit the PDE 2028, the actual PDE budget forms. Put them out for public display. It has to be 110 days prior to the election. Or at that point, we can opt out and not give it, that's where we either give ourselves options or we don't. And that's up to a board decision at that point. And then it's just the same deadlines if you don't opt out. February 5th is, if you opt out, February 5th is when you have to submit that form, that resolution to the state. And then just regular schedule like we did this year. We do the preliminary budget is due February 20th. That's 90 days prior. And so on and so forth. But more importantly, internally. I'm going to, right after the audit is complete, I'm going to submit the spreadsheets to all the principals and have them have the budgets to me. So we have the finance meeting in November is when I'll do a first presentation for a preliminary to kind of look at what we have. And then we'll do whatever we need to do for December. I should be able to get everything back to give you a complete preliminary for that November Finance Committee meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
Now,
Questions you
since we're talking about
Yes.
the budget process now, this will be your budget process for this year. So, how do you see it different than it has been? Because what we really struggle with is getting the administrators to cooperate with providing information, because we saw large increases, and it took, I think we were in May, and we to a point where we finally got tired of waiting for answers. But
I see this year we have Skyward, I love Skyward, is coming on to play January 1st. So I will be submitting the budget into that program, and I'll be working through it, and Angela will be, by that time, we'll be able to have her in there looking around and seeing how the budget operates in there. For this year, coming to 1920, I'm going to scrutinize a little bit more. I'm going to know what's in the 610s, and I'm going to be working with them. I see it standard this year, not knowing, but standard the way that we develop it. But I'm thinking once that's Skyward, I know how Skyward works in the budget. I'm hoping maybe for 2021 we can go to a zero-based. And because they have to actually put every definition of every item into Skyward directly. It's not even a spreadsheet. It's not an import. It's nothing. They develop their budget right within Skyward. So I think for this year, I'm going to send the spreadsheets out. I don't know if I'm going to... I'll give them this year's, what we actually came in last year, as opposed to showing them what was budgeted. Because I think that's going to give them... When you give them what was budgeted, they were adding 5% or 10%. Whereas if you give them where we actually spent, because if you budget wrong for years and years and years, you're going to keep budgeting for years and years wrong. This year, I'm going to actually give them what the actual was prior year and not let them look at the budget, what it was, because it might have still been I was doing budget transfers all over. So that's how I'm going to handle it.
okay.
And then possibly for that first year, we actually go and we actually do the budget where they're going to be putting the budget into Skyward.
So I'm just
Entertaining.
going to pick, just like sports, one that has always been kind of a nebulous number, and things get added without, or promised without us knowing. Will they have to go in and create a budget for, like, the coach, assistant coach, the transportation,
Everything.
all their supplies?
Yes.
Okay.
They have to actually input each line detail item, and then whatever comes up in that, they get a little box, and they're typing exactly what the dollar amount for this is, the dollar amount for that is.
So you'll have some, I assume you'll have some kind of training that you'll offer over the summer to acclimate
Yes,
them? Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
Looking forward to it. It's going to make it a lot easier. You know, we're going to think it and it's going to do it. All right, any other questions?
Are you going to send us out in the electronic, can you send us out electronically to the whole board then?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, the next one is the update on the procurement cards. Just wanted to kind of touch base where we're at. Angela and I have already been in discussion with Pliget. There's another player in this game, so we want to see and compare the rates. The first year we had the PNC cards, which is through Pizloff. Pizloff and Pliget are competitive. We have Pizloff, but Pizloff was, we had that, a few incidents with Pizloff, so we switched a lot of our money with Pliget when that new, what act is that, Act 50? It was a new investment law that came into play that we voted on last summer, that we were able to put in, that we're actually earning quite a bit more interest than we would be with Pizloff, because Pizloff hasn't implemented it yet.
Is Pizloff and Pliget, is that an acronym for
Oh,
something?
Pizloff is Pennsylvania State Liquid Asset Funds, and Pliget is Pennsylvania Liquid, oh, I forget it. Do you know it?
It's not important. I knew it had to
Yeah.
be something.
They're competitors. I forget what the acronym stands for. But when we implemented the PNC cards are through Pizloff. In order for me to have the PNC cards, I have to, of course, keep my Pizloff account. All right? Last year we earned, and they do, when they do the funds, they take all the purchases from everybody that's in the program throughout the state of Pennsylvania, and then they have a certain percentage that they give you based on the purchases and where you fall in that number. Pliget is on an individual basis, whatever purchase we make, and they have a percentage. I just want to see which one's better. So I'm going to be entertaining that. We're going to be entertaining that in the next couple months. In 16-17 was the first year we implemented. We implemented in October, which is past some of the the main purchasing time. But we still were able to come up with $15,547. And that was, we had that roof project.
Mhm.
We were able to
I
pay for that
remember
with the
that,
card.
yeah.
And then in 17-18, which would be more of your normal year, we made $11,093. So I just want to see, stay tuned. In the next couple meetings, we'll kind of bring you some information on what Pliget has to offer, if it's better or, we'll stay where we're at if not. Because even the buses have all these for the gas cards, the ones that
Mhm.
actually take gasoline, we have cards for them. They're all utilizing that system.
Okay.
So.
Just as a note, Mr. Rathkeb has joined us in his ex officio capacity.
Okay, and then the next thing is the Skyward implementation. We have most of it. A lot of the training has already taken place with as far as getting all the data over and the technology training. Starting, I think they're going to be here in mid-January to actually do the first payroll with the girls. They're going to do the first one because the first one falls the first week of January. And then they're physically coming out to do the rest of the training. So we should be live with, there's nothing pending. There's nothing, we're not behind. We're actually ahead of the game in a lot of areas. And everyone's pretty excited for what they're seeing, especially from the HR payroll capacity with what the system has to offer. So everything's going smoothly there. And the update on the audit, the auditors just came in today. So far, so good. Yeah, they had a couple little tweaky things here and there, system issues, nothing major.
Nothing like last year.
No, they actually walked in the door and I handed them the financials. Nothing like last year at all.
Mhm.
So, I'm very happy. They were very pleased sitting over there that they actually had a lot of working on it. And everyone's pretty much got everything done. Fixed assets, I think, is a little bit, they're working on that now, but everything's pretty much done. So, we're hoping for the best.
When does that usually conclude?
She'll be done by the end of the week. They'll have some kind of preliminary statements probably by the beginning of October, so I can do the AFR.
Mhm.
Or we can do the AFR, depending on where she's at with transportation. But this AFR done by the end of October. And hopefully we'll have the statements, because I'll need the statements for that. So
Do they come in and do a presentation? Is it
that's probably going to be in November.
November? Okay.
It's typically November. If I can get them in, I'm not sure how fast. I don't think we can get them in October.
If you have your AFR by the end of October, they'll be here in
November.
If they want their check.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the same time, because I think last year they came in December, just because we were running late, right?
Just as the board changed.
Yep, just as the board changed, so I'm expecting them to be ready to go by November. They
Okay.
can do their little presentation, and then we can look at the preliminary budget, where I'm at.
Okay.
Any questions?
Good.
How we doing with our budget with the GCA? Are they behind?
Brian
Just
just
the date.
submitted the adjustment that he felt that should be done to their July invoices with the reduction of the PEC. We have 60 days for payment. I told Kathleen today that I meet with her this week and we'll go over that July invoice, do the adjustments, and look at their labor report. Yeah, the July labor report is here. I'm sure their August isn't. They're not that fast. And make the adjustments to the hours required and move forward and do the same thing that I did for 2 years. Put actual against required and make the monthly adjustments. I'm not sure what the number was last year. I didn't add it all up. But I know I withheld, especially back in January, a substantial amount one month. So, and the other piece, the end of June, they assured me that the check was in the mail for the equipment that they purchased. But as of today, they're still stalling, so necessary. I'll have Kathleen get a letter from Brian, but they're asking her now for an invoice. Well, I already had to send it to them and had the confirmation on the 29th of June that the check was being processed. They're just,
I'll just put whatever he had on letterhead and send it over. They'll be invoiced by the end of the night.
Okay.
Hopefully they can cut a check.
$61,000 that they just continue to drag and drag. But that already has board resolution directing it to capital projects.
Does that include the floor scrubbers that they,
Right.
That's,
I was gonna ask that.
that's a separate issue
Oh.
for Casey to work on, but what was approved by the board in September of 16 for both custodial supply, or custodial equipment and grounds equipment, that was substantiated by them back then, and I've got all my emails, and with all this transition of management with them through the 2 years, I finally, when I got down to my final week, I said, guys, tired of this. And they said the check's in the mail.
In June.
Being processed.
Right.
It's almost
They're out of
like-
ink.
But we've got the substantiation on that. But as far as those two or three scrubbers that shouldn't have been used, that weren't secured, that's a separate issue.
Well, the one last thing with the audit is I did find there was $457,000 that were sitting up in the access fund, so I brought that back in. So that's going to affect the fund balance a little bit there. It was sitting up in
Yes.
access to be brought in-house. I brought that in-house.
You remember 3 years ago,
We stopped putting it on the budget, so it's going to be an increase.
when the last year that Andrew Basil was here, what year was that? Doesn't matter. We drew down, Mike Miller drew down 600,000. We found that was available. And then we went through a period of time with this new arrangement with Access Billing.
and backed up.
Well, that had backed up, but we weren't eligible for as much.
Right.
Well, now, that's why we pulled it out of the budget. That and the contingency money, the 150,000 contingency. But now they've caught up and there's some monies available. And what it is as a result of expenses that we've paid for special education services, it belongs in the general fund. So
Yeah, there was-
Kathleen and I spoke last week, get it done. So that's actually going to be a plus to your ending fund balance
Yes.
from
Do
last
do
year.
they
So there will be an
need to have
increase.
proof that it went for special ed? We can bring it back?
It's only
into-
special ed.
Right.
There's 600, they've approved this from the state. I think the balance up there is like 650 some $1,000, but I can only take what we've actually submitted expenses for, which is 457. So I brought that in, I did the accrual, so it's going to affect the 17, 18 when they audit. That's part of my audit process.
Does Shelley knows that there's more money out there than
Yeah.
that we should be doing for?
Well, and you know that
You've got
on the agenda,
item on
the person, the
agenda,
access person
Starting all over again.
submitted her, or is it on the agenda? I'm not sure. She submitted her 2 weeks.
What was her name?
Rhonda Wolf.
No relation. We checked.
She was our
We're all
access
bad.
coordinator, and she was doing pretty good. She was actually, she was getting,
It was an improvement over 2 years ago.
it was
Why did she leave?
Anyway, enough said.
more money.
So it was 457,000.
Yes, so that'll be an increase to what you saw.
So we'll, yet again, our fund balance will,
I just thought I'd make you aware.
not that I'm upset about that, but.
Yeah, it was money was sitting up there, and I convinced them that we need to take that in, so.
Okay.
And I was assured today, I saw the email come through. She did the paperwork to make sure it comes. So it should be here soon.
Okay. Any questions from the public?
So with the procurement card, do those, what we use it for, does that show up on our register? Or is that,
In the general fund, or when we're doing our AP, yes.
so how do we know when that card's being used as opposed to us cutting a check?
You can tell on the general ledger because they're processed as manual checks when they're put through. She does one batch at usually about the end of the month. It rolls over about the 26th of the month. I send the statement to her. She does the complete reconciliation as far as what she has in, receipts, and then she does a manual batch.
Okay. So we're actually seeing the purchases, just we just don't realize what they're, I'm actually seeing what we're actually doing with that money, but I just don't realize, I assume it's just a check.
That is a
So-
check. It's I think maybe there's I don't know if we'll have to look at the reports that you have and see if there's a separation.
Yeah, I'd be curious about that, and also that ties into my comment a couple weeks ago that if we're doing all these purchases on the Amazon, like know what we're purchasing.
I told her that she has to put more detail on. So she was trying to figure out a way that she can run a report that maybe
You know,
right
I'd
off
be
of
buying,
Amazon.
Alexas for all the teachers for all I know. I mean,
Right, I hear you.
Through Amazon?
Well,
if
all
look
you
at
see
our-
is
if you look- If
Amazon.
you look at our payment registers, there was a ton of Amazon purchases because the Blazer Foundation, I assume that's why they do it, because Blazer Foundation gets whatever we buy, they get a kickback from Amazon.
Right.
So I guess they've been having,
That's a different login than your normal Amazon. You got to flip
Right.
to the charity side,
but
and
if
not
you,
everything is
if you look
available.
at our check registers, we've had a lot of Amazon.com purchases,
Hmm.
and I don't know what we're buying. I assume we're buying stuff that we're supposed to buy, but.
Yeah. It all has to be PO'd approved, so we actually see it on the PO. But we're trying to figure out a way to get it on the report so you can see it.
But do they have to submit a receipt? Like at our club, we do use Amazon a lot, but we have to approve the receipts, and it's detailed as what we're
We have all the
purchasing.
receipts are out there, but it's when it comes over to the AP side.
Okay.
She has to actually put that detail in or find a way to get it so it's not too much keying for her.
All right, back to Dave's point. Okay. Could be Alexis, right?
Exactly. So,
I guess I heard you talking a little bit about, I guess Pliget was with the other, the other card too, is that what you're doing?
yes, and we're going to be meeting with them after the audit.
And are you also keeping an eye out, I don't know if we could, I haven't even looked, but I know most of our money's in the money markets. I don't know if there's a CD with some of these guys or maybe a treasury we could.
I actually met with a
get.
gentleman from New York that's all they do is CDs.
Yeah, 'cause-
and I hadn't had
I know
time
we got a
to go
chunk
back.
of money we could probably
We
sock
do,
away
and
some
we're
for
about to
6,
have
8
that
weeks.
Kenneth Murray that we all just approved. Isn't that like 50,000 that's coming in because that trust?
Oh, that trust, yeah.
That trust was a little bit lower than what they could, lawyers, and we waited for the AG to give the approval. So we should be seeing that money very shortly. And I was talking to that gentleman from New York, and that's all his company does. He does it just for school districts, runs around. So I was thinking of doing that.
Yeah, so-
I take your advice there.
Yeah, rates are up a little
Absolutely.
bit, see if we can take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Especially for like the scholarship funds, because I don't have to say, I don't need those until
Next year.
May. So,
Interesting idea.
Yeah, I didn't actually, when he called and he was discussing it with me, I didn't realize how much was actually there. And there was another count that I didn't even look at. So there's a good 20, 30,000
Yeah, we
right
should be able-
now.
I don't know who-
Plus another 50 come in from Kenneth Murray.
If we were wanting to do a treasury, we do that with the guy from RBC? Is that who we do?
You could start there. You may have somebody that you work with. Like start with Lou.
I'm not sure what a 6-month T-bills.
It's more than sitting in the bank.
Absolutely.
Well, we are getting some. What's the money market like? One five?
Something, yeah. And I know the Pliget, actually, that one account that I have, because we have the higher interest rate, that's where I'm, like, I just transferred 13 million from taxpayers, the taxes that were already due. So I know I see the interest has, that line of, has increased. I'd have to do the complete calculation. I should have did that.
Non-existent for a couple of years.
For a couple of years, it was non-existent, but they made that new, I forget what the act was. We just approved it with the policy, because we had to have a policy in place. And that's when I switched a lot of the funds over to Pliget last year. I'd have to see what the difference is and maybe update you guys the next time,
Okay.
or in the finance meeting.
Just make sure that, I assume the guy that's offering the CDs, they're pooled to give us over $250,000 of coverage.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
so
am.
you
You gotta be collateral.
Yeah. So.
That and I take the references. He does a few of the school districts in the area, so a little confidence there when they actually do a few that you know.
Yeah, I don't know if you, I'm sure. Well, you've been in First County a while, but what did we get scammed in years ago?
Black.
That golf course thing? Is that bond issue, that muni bond issue?
There was that guy from down in Tyrone that scammed a lot of districts in the
Yeah.
state back in.
I think it was some muni bond issue that they invested in the golf course, and then the golf course went under. So I don't know what it was.
I don't think that.
It wasn't that one?
Yeah, I don't think that was it.
No.
But it was like some kind of Ponzi scheme, basically. And yeah, I think Daniel Boone wound up getting most of their money back. I think we still lost $1 million or something, but
95,
I don't think it was
96.
that far back. I think it was early.
That was the guy in
2000s.
Tyrone.
I remember, but I couldn't. I'll be honest, I couldn't tell you one.
That's all I had.
Any other items of interest? We got
Hmm?
half an hour yet. Otherwise,
Well, what's your estimate of what the fund balance came in at last year? I mean, besides that $400,000, how close were we?
I think we were pretty. To
I
our
haven't
last
seen your number.
forecast, I haven't even. I've been
All I
just
have is
closing
your
the
June
books right
4th
now.
number that we put on the budget.
Yeah, and I brought in 61,000
I
isn't
didn't
going to
see your
play a
financials.
part. I can't even give you an estimate right now. It wouldn't be inaccurate, even close to being. I'm just fighting the 457. I just got that, which was.
and that's all special education expenses that we already paid.
It's already,
it's
so
all
it
just
has to be
reimbursement.
brought back in. It's not something you can leave up there, and we're going to earn more interest on it than they will give us. That zero from PDE, you know. But yeah, I can give you an estimate in October. I'll give you an
Or they
estimate
just
what we're
they
going to do.
keep it for us at 0%.
It's sitting up there. You have to tell them you want
Stay
it.
on top of it. That's where a
You
year
have to
ago,
stay
we
on
didn't-
top of it.
It wasn't beginning to generate again yet. But
Oh,
now-
okay. So it
this
just
year-
showed up, and
Yeah.
now
Oh, that's-
because it was nothing for a while because they were so far behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had taken more when Mike Miller took the whole
Well,
balance
600 was
down.
available when
It
we
was
did it.
available,
We-
but it was less, it was more than we should have taken at that moment, so we
Well,
came
there
in
was
at a
still- There was
negative.
still a little left in there because it had been taken for years. And
And we
the first
did-
year Mike was here, he dug into it and said, "You can take this much." And I
And
said, "Okay."
that gal who was our access person, right?
She was our access, so I'm not sure what we're going to
We
see
need to
going
get somebody
forward.
in that spot.
Because she did a really good job. She actually she did very much better than what it had been.
I don't know if you saw, I mean, maybe non quite topic here, but did you see the first grade numbers?
Oh, the was it one class? I mean, most of the classes were at 19 or 20.
Oh yeah, we could have dropped a teacher. I mean, gosh, we only have 197
It's-
in first grade.
You know, it's
Holy
a
cow.
it's a risk. You know, you never
Yeah.
know. First grade's always the tricky one. You just don't know.
Yeah, and kindergarten's close, but
But-
kindergarten didn't even cover like,
But you could definitely look at that for this coming budget for the second grade.
Well, you know, we
Is
did,
that-
yes.
we did have a resignation, you know, we lost a third grade teacher. I don't know if they hired, I don't think they've hired anybody for it yet.
I didn't know there was one.
I'm pretty sure didn't we approve a resignation on the last, she went to a different district.
Yeah, I think
Because
they,
remember you saying,
they're holding her.
well, how come she,
Yeah, they're holding her until they get a replacement.
technically we could not hire her.
Well, then you'd be reassigning all the.
Yeah, you would. But the third grade's might get a new teacher anyway. So kids are getting reassigned anyway.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Anything else? Anything?
Nope.
No? Okay. And we will conclude our meeting at 6:47.